In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Jesse to talk all about his new game, Chicken Time Warp, which recently reached its funding goal on Kickstarter. So hang on until after Kickstarter Corner when we talk about this game. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Snakes and Skulls, Freeblades Fantasy Miniatures, Shakaram Wavestalkers, and Kandorian Deathmasters for the Freeblades 32mm Fantasy Skirmish game. This project will be on Kickstarter through Tuesday, the 22nd of January. So definitely check out Snakes and Skulls Freeblades Fantasy Miniatures. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Syther Gaming. They're having a tabletop space warfare 4X refined game called Overbattle, the All War, which launches to Kickstarter on the 19th of March. Make sure you check out their Kickstarter page and you can sign up for reminders about this, other exclusives, and discount codes. Syther Gaming and Overbattle launching the 19th of March to a Kickstarter near you. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by New Comic Games' Inner Sanctum. It's a set collection card game of secret societies. Be the first to reach the 7th level and earn the right to enter the Inner Sanctum. It doesn't sound like an easy game, but it sounds fun. If you missed my conversation with Ben, definitely go back and listen to Tuesday's episode where I sat down and talked to him about it. We'll wait. Oh, glad you were able to enjoy that episode. Now, go check out the Kickstarter page, Inner Sanctum, on Kickstarter through Thursday, the 24th of January. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by Vespius Media Ltd, who launched a game called Nocturion on Kickstarter. It's a dark fantasy, dice rolling, worker placement, and resource management game for 2 to 4 players. Did you miss my episode with them when I sat down with Constantine? Well, go ahead and pause the podcast and jump over and grab that one. Glad you were able to listen to that interview. I hope you liked it. Now jump over and check out the Kickstarter page Nocturion, which will be on Kickstarter through Tuesday, the 15th of January. Like usual, if you like any of the game mentioned on Getting Geeky with Game Relief at any time, jump on the link on our show notes to show a little bit of support to the creator of these games as well as Getting Geeky with Game Relief so we can keep bringing you content about new games.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. So glad you could make it. How about you take your coat off and stay a while as we go ahead and talk about some games that are new or almost done on Kickstarter. And then, just after Kickstarter Corner, we'll talk about a game with the creator of said game. Let's go ahead and dive into Getting Geeky with Game Relief, shall we?
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaf's computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leafs.
First off, we've got the Final Flicktier. You don't want to dilly-dally on this one, as this game in which you boldly go where no asymmetric faction has gone before in this 4X game, featuring a unique dice flicking mechanism for movement and combat, is only on Kickstarter through tomorrow, Friday the 4th of January at 10:59 PM Mountain Standard Time. Do you want to find out more about the game? I sat down with Gabe before he hit the launch button, and you can find that in update number 1. and we show up right above the picture of the alien Santa Claus. So go listen to that, and then click on over and see if you like the campaign. If you do, show a little bit of love to it, and like always, show a little bit of love to the creators as well as Getting Geeky with Game Relief by clicking our notes in the show notes. We appreciate it, and so do these creators. But definitely check out the Final Flicktier relaunch from Gabe Barrett. One that just barely launched a couple days ago, and we had the creator on the show back on Christmas, was Snakes and Skulls Freeblades Fantasy Miniatures. Missed the episode? Well, go ahead and pause this episode and go back and listen to that one. We'll wait for you. Glad you were able to catch that episode. What did you think? We'd love to hear what you think about our episodes on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. But regardless, this is a great game from what I saw. I'm even wanting to get into fantasy skirmish miniature games. I imagine I would lose. Lady Leaf tries to beat the pants off me in any game. But who knows, maybe my strategy is getting there. I actually did beat the kids a couple times in chess, or got pretty dang close. We're not even going to talk about how I do on Smash Brothers, though.
Game over.
But you should go check out Snakes and Skulls, Freeblades Fantasy Miniature game, in which Chakram, Wavestalkers, and Kandorian Deathmasters for the Freeblades 32mm Fantasy Skirmish game that will be on Kickstarter through Tuesday, the 22nd of January. These miniatures remind me of cartoons from my youth. And no, I'm not old, people. Not old at all. So check out Snakes and Skulls, Freeblades Fantasy Miniature, and let's go ahead and join this interview with Jesse, already in progress.
Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Late at night in the farmlands of Iowa, a makeshift lab in the back of an abandoned barn buzzes with excitement. A group of scientist chickens are on the cusp of discovering time travel. Suddenly, their experiment opens an endless time vortex. Their lab and everything in it are sucked inside. The chickens created an escape pod for just such a catastrophe. But in a tragic oversight, the pod only has room for one chicken. Which chicken will escape from the endless looping vortex of time? That's pretty much like the thing in Groundhog Day or that Tom Cruise movie, you know, the one with the aliens, but with chicken scientists. Find out. Coming soon to a party in desperate need of entertainment near you.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is the story of Chicken Time Warp, a new game on Kickstarter, and tonight we're lucky enough to have on the creator mastermind behind this game. Is that correct, Jesse? Is that how you fall in line with Chicken Time Warp?
That's right.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us on Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Now, before we jump into everything that's great about your game, let's rewind a little bit if we could. We don't have to go back too terribly far, but how did you get involved in playing tabletop board games and whatnot?
So I've got a graphic design background, and I play a lot of games. I've got a group that at work that I play with, that we play at lunch or we stay late and play. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And also the design background is kind of what led me to want to create my own game. So I wanted to do it for a while. And actually, my dream is to create a strategic board game, but I wanted to kind of get my feet wet with a little bit simpler card game. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. That always seems like a good idea. I've seen several of these Kickstarted where they launch with a huge game right off the bat, and it doesn't tend to go too well from what I've seen thus far.
Yeah, that just doing a little bit of research. Jamie Stegmeyer, for example, has a ton of information on launching a Kickstarter game, and reading through it, I thought, man, there's a lot to learn just about Kickstarter, and then you're also having to create a game that people love. So I'll I'll start simple and then go from there.
Yeah, it seems like that's a better way. So, when you got involved with your game group at work, did they start with a certain game that drew you in, or?
Yeah, so some of the games that we played, one of the ones that I really liked that is another Kickstarter game was Secret Hitler, which was a fun social deduction game where you're kind of arguing throughout the game and pretending to be someone you're not potentially. So I really loved that one. Another one we play is Ink and Gold, which is it's basically a game of roulette. But you're exploring temples and trying to decide how long you stay in the temple with the chance of losing everything you've earned if you stay too long. So those are some of the games we were playing.
Cool. Do you have a favorite?
So I just played Azul for the first time, and I really liked it. I would say my favorite probably is Ink and Gold, but I think as I play Azul more, that might become one of my favorites.
Well, good thing we started this before you got into playing that much, because I've only played it the one time, but I really didn't care for it. So good thing we caught you at the tail end of the start of playing it, so we didn't have to cut the podcast short.
Oh.
Game over.
There we go.
There you go. So awesome. So I guess we can take that one since we don't know if it's your favorite yet or not. But as a designer and all, what would be one thing you would do to enhance Azul?
So that one it's still too new to me maybe to come up with some enhancements. I mean, I think you've got all the tiles. It would be interesting to add wild tiles where they can kind of fill in as any of the different tiles. I do on Ink and Gold. One of the have you played that game before?
No, I've heard of them talk of it on podcasts. Maybe there's somebody else out there like me that hasn't played it or hasn't heard of it. What can you tell us about Ink and Gold first off?
So Ink and Gold, like I said, it's kind of a roulette game. So you're exploring a temple and you're trying to find jewels is basically the idea. But with every turn, there's a chance that you get attacked by snakes or by fire or by a rock cave in. And if the same thing happens to you 3 times, if you hit 3 snakes, everybody dies. And you go through each of these rounds. So if you die, you lose all of the jewels that you've gained exploring this, kind of ransacking this temple. So you'd never know, like, should I leave now and just leave with the 2 jewels I have, and or should I stay in and take the chance of getting killed? So that's a fun one. One of the things I thought would be awesome as an enhancement there would be special abilities. So you could have like certain characters be immune to some of immune to snakes or immune to to some of the other dangers that come your way, or potentially the ability. One of the cool things they have is there's your jewels. You keep them in a little tent. It's a little cardboard tent so that nobody else can see them. So a special ability could be to peek in other people's tents and see how many jewels they have. But that's a great game. I'd highly recommend it.
Cool. Yeah, sounds like it. Have you amassed a collection since you started playing with the guys at work?
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing like some of the collections of some of the people I follow on Board Game Geek, but I've got 15 or 20 games that I like to pull out and play with the family. I've got teenagers, so for family games, there's a lot of fun ones that we pull out and play.
Well, that's pretty cool. And word on the street is you created a new game, and it's currently on Kickstarter. What can you tell us about Chicken Time Warp, Jesse?
Yeah, so Chicken Time Warp is kind of a strategic game disguised as a party game. It's about chicken scientists who unintentionally open a time vortex while experimenting with time travel. So the game centers around a timeline that's counting down the minutes to an escape window, which is when the only way to get out of the time vortex. So you're kind of always looking at this timeline as it counts down these minutes. The object is to acquire the escape pod card and play it when the escape window is open. So that's kind of what you're doing, is trying to find out who has the escape pod. There's only one escape pod in the deck, so you want to find out who has it, steal it from them, and then hopefully you have it when the escape window's open so you can play it and win. One of the cool elements is the timeline also keeps track of when players die. And so if you die, you set your card on the timeline during the minute that you died. But the timeline can also be used to travel back in time, which means you flip the cards back so that so they're back face down, these minute cards that are counting down. And so that can actually bring people back to life. So that's kind of the fun element. I mentioned we were playing Secret Hitler in my game group. We also play Bang, Exploding Kittens, Werewolf, a bunch of these games where if you die early on in the game, it really sucks. And so that's kind of what I wanted to do, was create a game where you have that same element of death, but there's also an element of being brought back into the game. So that was kind of my goal with creating this game.
So per se, me and you sat down to play Chicken Time Warp. What's my turn going to look like? I guess we'd need one more player. It's just 3 to 6 players. What would our turns look like?
It's 3 to 6 players. So each of us would have a character card representing the chicken that we are that we're representing in the game, and then each of us would have 4 cards that were dealt to us. And the way that the gameplay goes is, first, you turn over a timeline card. So basically, there's, like I said, this timeline that's counting down from 10 minutes, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 1, and then the open escape window. So the first thing you do is flip over one of those timeline cards, moving everybody 1 minute closer to the escape window being open. Then I look at my hand and I decide, do I want to play a card? It's optional, so you can hold on to your cards or play one. And you can do things like, there's a card called Peekaboo, which lets you look at somebody else's hand. There's a freeze card that lets you freeze another player. There's also a swap hands card, so you swap your whole hand with someone else. So you're going to do one of those plays if you want to, or just hold on to your cards. And then you end your turn by drawing a card from the draw pile. And you'll either get one of those cards I just mentioned, or there's 2 cards in the draw pile that have to be played immediately. So if you draw a time slips away card, the highest minute card on the timeline gets removed from the game. So let's say we just started, you draw a time slips away card, the 10-minute card that you just turned over is now removed from the game, and we can never travel back to that minute.
So if I died before that minute, I would be SOL?
Yeah, that's right. If your character card is sitting on that 10-minute and that time card slips away, you're out of the game for good. And that's the only way you can get out of the game for good. Otherwise, and one of the fun elements is just kind of, it's a little bit chaotic with people dying and then coming back and then dying again and coming back. But that is, so the other card that you can draw that's a play immediately card is I call it the You Dead card. But if you draw that, you're dead and you set your card on the timeline. There is a way to defend a You Dead card, and that's with the Klux Capacitor, which lets you turn back time 3 minutes and basically avoid death. So if you have a Klux Capacitor in your hand, you play that immediately and avoid death. The interesting thing is, by doing that, you might bring other dead players back into the game. So it's kind of like a catch-22 sometimes to play that to stay alive, and then also bring an opponent back into the game.
Interesting. Now, where did the inspiration for Chicken Time Warp come from, Jesse?
So I had, like I said, I've been playing a couple of these games where there's the element of dying, and I was trying to figure out a game mechanic that could bring you back to life. I'm a huge time travel geek, so I wanted to figure out a way for time travel to be that mechanic. So that's kind of the basic idea. I was trying to figure out who the characters should be, and I was out on a bike ride. This story is on my Kickstarter video as well, but I was out on a bike ride and saw this chicken being chased by two two young kids. They had this big net and they were chasing the chicken, trying to catch it. And then about 15 miles later on this bike ride, I saw what looked like the exact same chicken just running down the road alone. And so I kind of thought, is that the same chicken? How did he time warp all the way to here, so quickly? And I just kind of, when you're out on a long bike ride and just, your brain just kind of sits and thinks on stupid things like that. And so I thought, okay, I know what the characters in this game are going to be. They're going to be time traveling chickens.
Awesome. And I load the Klux capacitor, and I want to say one of the chickens might be similar to the Doc from Back to the Future. Any inspiration from there as well?
Definitely, yeah. There's like I said, I love all things time travel, and so there's a lot of references to different time travel movies and stories, including Back to the Future, which is kind of for me, growing up in the 80s, that was the movie that first introduced me to the idea of time travel, and ever since then I've just really loved it.
Yeah, I love the Back to the Futures. They're one of my favorite movies of all time, so they're awesome. And on your Facebook page, it seems like you guys have been doing something in regards, like every day, posting something about a time warp movie or something. Like I saw something about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, and what are some of the others?
Yeah, so there's a 10-day movie challenge that's kind of a popular hashtag right now, and the idea is you post 10 movies, one a day that influenced you, but you can't say anything about them. You just post a picture of the movie and hashtag 10-day movie challenge. So I thought that it was kind of a great opportunity to share some of the time travel movies that I love. So Back to the Future's on there. About Time, which is kind of more of a rom-com, romance, but it's a great movie. I really like it. It's got Bill Nighy, who's Davy Jones on Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's a fun time travel movie. Bill and Ted's is another one that I posted. And then let's see, what were some of the other ones? Anyway, you can follow at Chicken Time Warp and see some of my favorite time travel movies as I post one each day.
Awesome. Now, when it came to play testing of Chicken Time Warp, was there ever anything you guys had to cut because it just wouldn't work for the game?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I'm so glad we play tested this. And as I was researching how to create a game, one really good piece of feedback that I got was start out playtesting on your own with no other players. So I spent hours dealing 3, 4, 5 hands and just playing through all of them by myself. And so just that, I was able to figure out a lot. The thing you don't figure out there is how different people think, right? Because I was just making the most obvious play on each one. So I did that.
Did you ever beat yourself before? Did you ever beat yourself?
Yes, I always beat myself. Yeah. But so this was on a hand drawn. I bought some blank playing cards on Amazon. They worked with whiteboard markers, and so I drew the whole game out on those, and then I'd erase them and redraw them since they worked with whiteboard markers. So I got that to the point where I felt like it was pretty close, and then I printed a really rough prototype, and that's when I started getting more people involved. And I just, everywhere I went to a family reunion and took the cards and played it. Anyone who would play with me, I was I was playing with them. And I had a couple friends from my game group play, and we just tore the whole thing apart, which was great because I think getting more people in on it, especially people who play a lot of games, we were able to really work out some of the things that weren't working. The only thing I was really married to going into play testing was this idea of a timeline and the ability to die and come back into the game via time travel. So that's what I told him, is like, as long as there's still an element of that, I just want to make this an awesome game. I don't care if everything I thought of we end up trashing. I just want to make an awesome game. So yeah, playtest. I've play tested it hundreds of times, and I think the mechanics work really well because of that.
Well, that's good to hear. What about blind playtesting? Did you do any of that?
Yeah. So, are you referring to like just handing someone the game and letting them figure it out?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's what they call it.
Yep. Yeah. So I did that a couple times. I went to my game group and tried that at first without the guys who had helped me in the original playtesting. And the tricky thing is, I had the instructions. It's a little accordion fold out, and it is hard. Writing the instructions is an art form. It was way harder than I thought it would be. So I wrote them out. And then the other tricky thing is, I knew that eventually I was going to have a website where I'd be able to explain the game more thoroughly, but I wanted them to do it just with the rules. The trickiest thing there was, so I was there, but I couldn't say anything. I forced myself not to, if they were doing something wrong or running into some kind of dead end, I just wrote it down and didn't say anything. And so that was awesome. I would highly recommend doing that. I did that a couple more times. There's a gaming cafe nearby my house, and I went there and just let some people play it, and same thing, didn't explain it to them, let them read the instructions and kind of figure it out. And super valuable to find like the things that just aren't clear as people are reading through, that would be easy to explain if I were to explain it verbally, but when you sell a game, you're not going to be able to explain it verbally to everybody.
Was that hard to keep your mouth shut?
Very hard. My day job is I'm a product manager and a designer for software, and so that's actually something that I do a lot when I'm making software, is I user test it, and so I used some of the tactics that I use for software design and development, user testing as I was testing out the game, and so I've got some experience with it, but it's very challenging to just shut up and let them make mistakes and ask. They'll ask a question and they'll look at you, and you got to just shake your head and not say a word, and tell them to figure it out, or ask them, well, what do you think you should do? But yeah, that's a challenging part for sure.
Cool. So how did you know it was ready to go to Kickstarter?
So I had, one of the things I had read was, don't pick a firm date to launch your Kickstarter, because part of launching on Kickstarter, there's kind of two pieces to it, and they're equally challenging. The first part is you got to make a product, in this case, a game that's awesome, that people are going to love. But the other part is building up a following and just even all the content that it takes to create a Kickstarter campaign. And so this advice I had read just said, get an idea of when you want to launch, but don't launch too early. If you don't have a following, if you're not ready, the game doesn't have to be all the way finished when you launch. And I've made some changes to it, to what I thought was the finished version, just through playing it even after the game launched. But I think how do you know when it's ready? I think when so I started printing out copies and giving them to people, and when I started getting messages from people, on the weekend, at night, whatever, where they were saying, hey, how do you do this? Or what do you think about this? Or what should I do in this scenario? So then I knew people were playing it over and over. And that it wasn't just, well, we'll play this because we like Jesse and he wants us to play it, but they were actually getting together with family, with other people. And then I also started getting questions like, oh, I played this with a bunch of my friends, or I played this with my family and they want to back the game. When are you launching? So then I kind of knew, okay, the game's probably ready to launch. Now I got to do all the work to just get the Kickstarter campaign up and going.
Yeah, for sure. That can be a lot of work. I'm currently working on something similar right now. But yeah, in regards to that, how did you go about collecting the audience? Because a lot of times that's where I feel a lot of these Kickstarters that I see go up every day, a lot of them are lacking. How did you go about collecting an audience for it?
So I think the first key is, like I said, don't set a specific time that you want to launch. I had a goal to have 100 followers on each of my social media accounts before I launch, which even that's not a ton. So that I originally I wanted to get 500, but I think that I ended up losing patience and and skipping past that. So I moved it to 100. But so the thing that I would say there is create your social media accounts, and post real content. And I can't remember where I read this advice, but I read it somewhere. You'll see some game social media accounts that are launching on Kickstarter, and all they post are, artwork from their game, when they're going to launch, and they're just posting that over and over. Nobody's going to follow you if they've never heard of you, and you follow them and they go look at your at your posts and they say all this person does is post about their game. They're not going to follow you. So one of the things I deliberately did was I tried to post 3 or 4 times a week with actual real content. Since my game's a time travel game, I was posting about time travel. I was also posting updates about the game, but I tried to kind of keep a good ratio there. So that when I started following people, which I didn't do until I had about 2 weeks worth of posts, if you checked out the account, you'd be like, okay, if I like time travel, this is kind of a cool account, so I'm gonna follow it. And so that worked pretty well. The other thing is to be active with that social media account. So especially on Twitter, I would retweet other game accounts. I would retweet time travel posts, and then I would have conversations with people, just to kind of get out there. And that I actually got a couple reviewers just by doing that. So that's what I would recommend is you've got, hopefully you've got your friends, your neighbors, whoever that are going to be part of your audience, and you do, you want to leverage them as well, but you got to kind of unless you've got a huge audience there already, you're going to have to build up a following, even beyond that.
Yeah, for sure. I say that's one of the most important things besides a good game, because you can, I forget who said it. I want to say it was Michael Wright, who looks like was one of the people that reviewed your game. But when I had him on over a year ago, he said something about along the lines of you can have the best. You can have the best. What do you say? You can do the best marketing or whatnot, or using the social media or whatnot the best you can. But then if you have a bad game, or if it's just a one and done, people aren't going to come back. Or you can make a good game and not do any of the marketing and stuff, and it'll fall flat. So it's kind of an even balance, I think. But you definitely need a good game.
Yep, that's what I would say. That was my biggest surprise. Again, is like I knew the good game part. I know from my work in product development and software, if you don't have something people love, you're dead in the water. So I knew I had to have an awesome game, but all of the other work that it's taken to get this up and going was kind of the big surprise to me. It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun too, but it's been a lot of work.
Cool. And it looks like it's getting really close. When abouts did you launch exactly onto Kickstarter?
So when did I launch? I launched on December 13th.
Okay, so it's been going about a week, and it's almost got, wait, was that a week? 7, 13? Oh, no, a little bit longer. 2 weeks. And it looks like you're just a little bit shy of your goal, but people probably had stuff going with the holidays.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that was actually a consideration. I thought, should I wait until after the holidays to launch this? I read a couple differing opinions on that. There were some people who said launching over the Christmas holidays the worst possible time. Others that said it's actually good because people have free time and they're on Kickstarter. And I read a couple data points that said it really doesn't matter. It comes down to again, what you just said, good product and a decent following. So I decided to just do it. I was ready to go. So I launched it on the 13th. I did it at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, which was one of the suggestions I read. So you get on the East Coast, you get people on their lunch, and on the West Coast, they're just getting up and maybe, checking it out. So did that. I hit 20% funded on the first day. And then it's just kind of, slowly trickled in since then. I'm using there's a tool called KickTrack. It's KICKTRAQ.com that lets you follow. You can actually follow any Kickstarter, but I'm using it right now to follow my own. And it gives you a lot of cool data. So right now it's looking like I'll hit my goal around day 27, and then potentially go a little bit over and maybe hit some of the stretch goals.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So what did others have to say about it? Because it looks like you talked about, you got a hold of some reviewers in doing the different social media things.
Yeah, so I mean, I think overall it's getting some pretty good reviews. I liked Unfiltered Gamer Michael, right? I liked his review because it was really honest, and he gave some really good feedback on things he would change. One of the things he mentioned was adding special abilities, which I hadn't ever come up in playtesting, but I really like the idea. So that's one of the things I'm considering. The other thing that's been really fun has been just the comments I've been getting from backers, and them talk. That's something I didn't expect, but people who are really engaged and are super excited about the game, and they tell me they're telling all of their friends and their gaming group about it. So that's been kind of some good positive feedback as well. But I had, I went to a gaming event the week before it launched, tested it out there and got some really good reviews. And then all in all, I think I've had about 30 play testers that gave me some positive reviews as well.
Well, that's not too shabby. That's good. When it comes to Chicken Time Warp, what would you say you're most proud about, Jesse?
So I think the game mechanic of coming back alive, that's kind of what I set out to do when I built the game. And like I said, it was challenging, especially to find the right weighting with all of the different cards. So I'd say getting that mechanic to work really well, to where it, as I mentioned, it gives kind of a chaotic sense to the game, but in a fun way. That's what I'm most proud of, is just the ability to die and come back in, and how some of the fun strategy that creates in the game.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool mechanic. Do you know of any other games that do that? I haven't heard of any.
I don't. No, there is a game. I'm trying to remember the name. It starts with an A, that does deal with time travel. It's a little different. You actually can send yourself resources from the future, and then when you get to that point in the game, you have to send them back to yourself. So that's the only game I know of that deals with time travel. And again, I'm blanking on the name, but
yeah, I can't remember it either. I heard of them talking about it on another podcast. It sounded pretty fun, but I don't remember what it was either.
The time travel game is Anachrony. I just found it.
Now, with all the game projects on Kickstarter, what makes your game pop or stand out as one my audience should go check out and then back it if they like what they see, Jesse?
So what makes my game pop? So I think one of the things I really focused on was trying to answer all the questions on the Kickstarter page. I spend a lot of time on the video, both the kind of the trailer and then a little kind of tutorial, because I think that's one of the things that really matters, is that you've got a good video that people can look at and understand. Like I say, the writing all the content and all of that, I tried to put enough there that you could get a really good sense of what the game was about. So that's kind of as far as like all the competition on Kickstarter. I think that's one of the things I've got going for me. As far as the game itself, I think I've gotten a lot of feedback that just the idea of chicken scientists who are time traveling is just funny, and people just back it because they think that's kind of a funny idea. And then the other thing I'm getting a lot of feedback on is just the what we were just talking about, the time travel game mechanic and being able to come back into the game. That's piqued people's interest.
Yeah, I'd meant to ask you about the video. How did you come up with the farm in Iowa at the first of the video?
You know what? I Googled which state had the most chickens, and it was Iowa. So kind of arbitrary, but that's where it came from.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Thanks a lot, Google. We appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. Now, minus coming there to Utah to stalk you personally, how would people go about keeping up with you or Chicken Time Warp or also stuff in the future? Because you talked about wanting to do stuff in the future as well.
Yeah, so at Chicken Time Warp is on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I do have an LLC for the game company that I created. It's called Crash Stash, as in like a mustache, crashstash.com. I don't have anything there yet, so there's not a lot to follow, but that's the LLC that technically created the game. So there will be content there as I create more games. Right now, at Chicken Time Warp is probably the best way to follow what we're doing.
Okay, awesome. And we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so they can just click on over. If you get me those links, I'll make sure I get them in there. And mine, I know right now we're focused on Chicken Time Warp because we want to see that become a reality. But is there anything you can share with us about upcoming games?
Yeah, so I am I'm working on a couple expansion packs for Chicken Time Warp. I've got them as the stretch goals. Not sure if we'll hit them during this campaign, but I'll release them either way at a later time. So one of them is called the Cluster Cluck expansion, and that it changes up the timeline so that there are multiple escape windows and adds some more chaos to the game, which I think will be really fun. So that I'm fine tuning and play testing right now. The other one is the Extremely Safe for Work expansion pack, which is basically if you play Chicken Time Warp at work, only 6 people can play, and that's kind of dangerous because everyone wants to play. So the Extremely Safe for Work expansion pack lets you open it up to 10 people. And the cool thing I'm doing there is rather than just being everyone against each other, it introduces a co-op element to the game where you actually have a team, and if anyone on your team ends up playing the escape pod, your whole team wins, which adds some fun. You can, you're passing the escape pod around between your team to try to confuse the other team on who has it. So those are kind of the next things I'm working on game-wise.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. And you also talked about something coming up with you wanted to do something bigger, like a strategic game, or you haven't got there yet?
Yeah, that's just a goal of mine. I haven't got there as far as the concept though. I'm gonna finish this out and get it produced. Because that's the other part that's big on Kickstarter is once you fund, now you actually have to produce the game and ship it out. So I'm not going to focus on any of that until I'm all the way done.
Well, that's a good idea. So when somebody backs this, like we just did, when would we anticipate getting our game so we can start being able to take our own chickens back in time?
So I've been working with a printer. I found an awesome printer and have already produced a bunch of games. The cost just is too much. I'm buying 1 or 2 at a time, and so it really doesn't make sense. But their turnaround time is really quick. I put on the Kickstarter campaign that I hope to get it out by May of 2019. It'll fund middle of January. I actually think I'll get it out before that, but the feedback I got was, under promise, over deliver. versus the other way around. So I'm shooting to have it out in March or April.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, but like you said, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Well, yeah, but we really appreciate you. We don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us to talk all about Chicken Time Warp. I know you've at least convinced me. Hopefully some other people will come on and we can help make Chicken Time Warp a reality. But yeah, we really appreciate it, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no problem. What do you think? I really enjoyed talking to Jesse about that game, and I'd like to talk to you about your games as well. If you want to make this happen, go ahead and reach out to me at Getting Geeky with Game Relief on Facebook or at gamerelief@gamereliefgo.com on the emails, and we'd love to chat with you. But it's come to our least favorite time. Your least favorite time as well. Time for us to get on with our lives and you to get on with yours. Reminder to catch episodes of Getting Geeky with Game Relief every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and sometimes more depending on if we have the interviews, just like this week. But anyways, go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geek fold. Like usual, we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.